things, but one of the things we do, we call them word songs. I do spoken word while Melissa sings, and we love to do them interactive. We love to have people join us. So for this first one, we would love to have you join us. It's very, very simple. This is your part, and you can put movements if you want. You don't have to. Your part is to say, love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. Please say that with me. Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. Beautiful. And the part where this comes in is a little bit tricky, so you're going to want to listen when I say, hush little baby, because there's just this love. So you have to be paying attention, which is a paramount to spiritual practice, right? So we're keeping you on your toes this morning. All right. Here's something that isn't true. There aren't 24 hours in a day. I mean, there are, but only because we say so. Because thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt, someone stuck a stick in the ground and watched the shadows to try and measure the arc of a day. And don't get me started on this trip called time, the trippity-slippity thing that doesn't exist in the first place. I ain't no Einstein, but I tell you what, there's only one thing that ever stuck that doesn't need a stick in the ground for me to trust it. Hush, little baby, because there's just this love. Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. Again, love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. When I let go of all that I believe, what is left is true. Release the stories of things I see, all I see is you. In the spaces between starlight, in the shelter of the dark, in the memories of sweet goodbyes, beating of my heart, it's you. All that Here's something else that isn't true, what we call love, right? There's a guy at work, you don't even know his name, but you're sure he's the one who can satisfy that need that hurts and howls and wants what's real till you find out he's married or gay or not gay, and he can't give you anything but need and more need. See, love doesn't ask, love only answers, and the answer is always yes. I don't know much, but I tell you what, there's only one thing that's ever stuck that doesn't need anything for me to trust it. Hush, little baby, because there's just this love. Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. When I let go of all that I believe, what is left is true. Release the stories of things I see, all I see is you. In the spaces between starlight, in the shelter of the dark, the only truth is love. Love is the only truth. Thank you for participating. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Just to start out, my name really is Z. Sometimes people say, is it really Z? Just the letter Z? Yes, it is. Z was a nickname for Betsy. That was my name for a long time, Betsy. Do I look like a Betsy? Not so much. Yeah, I'm going to actually talk more about that later. But yes. So, love is the only truth, right? Yes. And the only truth is love. That is a fundamental reality of creation. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I find myself asking, where is the love? That's the title of our talk today. Where is the love? Because sometimes it's easier to feel that and to find that inside ourselves and from other people and toward other people, right? There's moments when it's easier than others, at least for me. So that's what we want to talk about today. How's that sound? Good? Okay. Yeah. Melissa is going to get us started. Go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, do any of you ever feel triggered? So, I define triggered as having a reaction to something in life that others might observe and say is slightly illogical. But Spock would definitely say illogical. So, like someone cuts you off on the freeway, you take it personally, right? Or you're standing in line at the grocery market in the speedy checkout lane of 15 items, and the person in front of you has 18 items in their shopping cart. And you maybe only internally, preferably only internally, go a little ballistic, right? Like, what? They're counting one thing like fruit. Right? That's what I do. So, and then you can't let go of it. You leave and you're just like seething or something, right? So I call that being triggered. And I used to be triggered by everything in the universe. Everything triggered me. You could say I was trigger happy. Except for minus the happy part, right? Trigger unhappy. I was thinking about this morning and thinking about how back then I had two responses to the universe: rage and shame. And then I was thinking maybe that's what all triggers are. Maybe that's what triggered is having that and then having it show up in their different ways, because all of it is victim. The world is out to get me, got me again. Damn world. So one of the things we're talking about in talking about where is the love is how to get untrigger happy. How to not be so triggered in that way that I used to be all the time. And in these kinds of rooms that we have here on Sunday morning, we know something that some of the world doesn't know. We are very blessed to have the awareness that if we are triggered like that, like I'm talking about toxic upset. If you're feeling toxic upset of any kind, it's about a belief. It's about believing a lie, a story we are telling ourselves that is a lie. Are you following me? I'm thinking you all know this. You're like, I hope she says something new in a second. Now, one exception for me, kind of an exception for me, is grief. I just like to say that for anybody in the room who's grieving. But I do also want to say, when we allow grief, it is not toxic. It might be intense, but it isn't toxic. Do you know what I mean by that? I'm talking about that toxic stuff. And when we go into grief and we commit to the lies that we tell ourselves with it, then we stay there. Otherwise, we move through grief, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So what do? We remove the hair. It is tickling the mouth. What do we do with that? What do we do with that understanding? Like, okay, so now I'm having these toxic emotions, so I'm believing a lie. Okay, so then what? You look to what is the lie? What is the story that is the lie we're telling ourselves? And then you find the truth, and I promise you the truth is always right on the other side of the lie. On the flip side, right? And there's lots of ways to find the lie and then find the truth, including people that you have here. I know in Centers for Spiritual Living we call them practitioners, and here they're called prayer chaplains, thank you. And ministers and teachers, the people who teach your classes here. You come here on Sunday morning, and may I just say, you meditate, and then you meditate some more, and then you meditate some more. We're really advocates of meditating, because all of this process of being able to discover what is the lie and what is the truth behind that is about becoming awake and aware to what is the story I am telling myself that is creating the emotional response. What is the story? And you have to be awake and aware of your thinking to know what that is and to be able to follow the thread to the lie. Oh, there's the lie. There's where it came from. Here's the truth on the flip side. So, meditation. So I might say that a couple more times. Meditation, meditation, meditation. Coming to centers like this, education. There's all kinds of things. Therapy, practitioners of all kinds. But the common thread is getting awake. So I was, years and years ago, I did a lot of training. I know that Linda mentioned my Toltec. Oh no, didn't mention my Toltec things. No, I'm a Toltec mentor. And I was doing this intensive training. And every weekend, not every weekend, one weekend a month, all weekend long for years. And so I did that training, and so I was really steeped in this awareness of what I'm talking about. And I also was in the second year of practitioner training in Centers for Spiritual Living, which means I was about 8 years into training around this consciousness, discovering the belief, knowing the truth, like that, right? I was steeped in this knowledge and understanding. I had a deep awareness of this. And I was traveling and doing like this, only not nearly as good because I didn't have Z. It was just me. And I was going around the country and doing my thing. So I went on a trip, and it was about 2 weeks long. And I came home, and there was a stack of notices, because then they had paper things they mailed to you. And there was a stack of notices from my bank. Not a fun thing to come home to, right? So I opened these and discover I had made a mistake in my bookkeeping before I left. And now, in those days, my life looked very, very different. I mean, obviously, I was so trigger happy and miserable all the time. I also life was not so good. And I had debt. I had a lot of debt at that point. And what I had done in my bookkeeping, I had done this thing you can do in QuickBooks. I entered a deposit twice for thousands of dollars, which I had once, but I didn't have twice. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I have this unexpected money. Yeah. And so I paid down a debt. Only, of course, they cashed the check and it went to the bank, and the bank said, no, that's an illusion. That money's not here. So not only did I do that, it was $650 in charges. Yeah, and they wouldn't reverse them. Holy Moses, I was really in it. I was really triggered. Talk about toxic. And especially back then, because one of the things that really used to trigger me into a self-disdaining, toxic hatred, shame, I mean, like really intense, was money. was my stuff around money and what a loser I was. So I kept, knowing the truth and meditating and praying and practicing, and then I'd leave my meditation altar and I'd walk away, and 2 minutes later I'd be just like beating myself up again, really in toxic shame. Now this went on for days, and finally I said, I have to go and do this meditation that I know will help me find the lie. This thing in the Toltec world we call recapitulation, that Z and I now call radical transformation, because the reason it is radical is you find the core and you break it, you shift it, you transform it to the truth. It's very, very powerful. So I thought, I need to go, practice what I preach, imagine that, and do this meditation and find this. So I did. And I thought it'd be, 10 minutes. I said, I'll be out about 10 minutes. I was married to a man at the time. That's another whole story. But I said, I'll be about 10 minutes. I came out, and about an hour and a half later. And I was, and he could see immediately, that I was in a state of shock. And I sat down, and he said, what happened? And I said, I just realized that my mother hates me. To which he said exactly what my best friend said 2 weeks later when I said it to them. You're just figuring this out? Your mother says atrociously awful things to you all the time. And not to your siblings. One of my siblings is here and hasn't heard this. Anyway. And probably knows it. I mean, they were there too. Just really had issues. Now, I'm going to say more about that in a minute, but my experience when I was growing up was that my mother said to me regularly, you were the best fight I ever lost with your father. Right? See, you all get it, right? Like, ooh, ouch. Now I realize, because of that meditation that day, that what she was trying to say to me was, I'm so glad I had you. I'm glad I lost that fight. But what I heard was, I didn't want you. And honestly, there was a lot of actions saying, I still kind of wish you weren't here. So I had this deep belief. And what came out from me, what was the lie, was I should not have come. I do not deserve to be here. Now, what was the truth? This is where it gets yummy. The truth was, Spirit always wanted me here. Spirit won that fight that day. Spirit moves through me and breathes through me every day. Every breath is the evidence that Spirit still wants me here. I say this to you. This is the reality of you. Spirit wants you here, and every breath in that you need and is fulfilling your body's needs, and every exhale that your body needs to exhale for you to stay alive, Spirit is doing that because you need to be here and be exactly who you are right now. Doing exactly what you're doing. That is why you are here. That is why I am here. And that day, my life changed forever. You can imagine. Nothing was the same. I actually went through a couple weeks of not being able to speak, because every time I went to speak, I had the awareness, I'm trying to say this so they will approve of me existing, and I don't need to prove that I deserve to exist anymore, so I don't need to say it. And I kept not speaking, because there was nothing to say, because I am that. Now, I did start talking, and, I came back around. But one of my things that I came with soon after that is this affirmation. I stand in unapologetic confidence knowing the truth of my divine nature. That is what I am. That is what you are. That is what we are. We are spirit, alive. That's the truth. That's the truth with a capital T, truth. And my other question that I ask myself now and then, you know those ads of Verizon? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? And so these days what I still ask myself is, can I love me now? Can I love me now? And the answer ultimately is always yes. And because of that yes, I am triggered by life into joy all the time. I'm not saying I never have other feelings of anything else. I am not saying that. I am saying that life triggers me all the time, and it triggers me into gratitude and awe. Because it's amazing to be alive as spirit in spirit. It's amazing. So that's our invitation to you today, to find the lie if you're in that toxic place ever. Find the lie, look to the flip side, find the truth, and practice believing it, because it is the truth. And become trigger happy. And so it is.
Thank you, Melissa. So Melissa covered finding the love in ourselves. Where is the love? The love in ourselves. I want to take it to the next level and talk about other people. Right? And to do this, to illustrate this, I have a story I'd love to share with you that I call the spiritual retreat from hell. Or I guess on Sunday morning I should probably call it the spiritual retreat from heck. Yeah. So, would you like to hear it?
Yes.
All right. So this was years ago. I want to say probably about a decade ago. Melissa and I went to a spiritual retreat. So these days we often facilitate retreats. At this particular retreat, we were participating in the retreat. It was a spiritual retreat that was held at an event center. So we were all staying in the hotel, and then we would go meet in the common room. And so I didn't know anybody there but Melissa. And so I was feeling kind of shy and nervous. I just knew her and this new retreat and everything. And we go to the first night where, they do a lot of icebreakers and meet and greet and everything. The other thing I should mention about this retreat, it was a women's retreat. And I am, I wasn't using this word then, but the word I use now to describe my gender identity and expression is gender rich. Whole lot of gender going on here. Gender rich. I'm actually surprised. So if I go to a checkout line and the person doesn't know me and they say, "Can I help you, ma'am?" I'm actually kind of surprised, because it's more often, "Can I help you, sir?" And I get it, And then women's bathrooms are really fun. More than once I've had a woman scream when I go in the bathroom. I'm like, not in a good way. They're like, "Oh, see, you're here." It's like, no, I don't know you're here. So I'd like to bring Melissa with me to show that I'm pre-approved. That's helpful. And then I can do girl, boy, girl, boy, right? So I smile. And then I stick out, what little I have, and there I go into the bathroom. But I prefer more and more, they have the all gender bathrooms. Those are way better. Yeah. So there's that. Now, this was 10 years ago, and at that point, I was still kind of coming into my gender richness, right? Like I said, didn't even have that name yet. So I was a little more self-conscious, right? At this first thing, but it seemed like it was okay. Nobody screamed, I'm actually biologically female, so I was okay to be there. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be all right. We go to the hotel room to go to sleep that first night. Melissa is the kind of person who right away she goes to sleep. It takes me a while. So I'm lying there in the dark, and I'm realizing, oh wow, the walls are really thin in this hotel. I can hear the people right in the next room, and oh wow, it sounds like it's two women. I think they're at the retreat. Oh yeah, because I can hear them talking. And then I realize that they're talking about me. Yeah, one of them in particular is saying, "I don't understand why she has to look like don't understand why, if she hates men, she has to look like one. Now, you know, you think of things later, like now I'm like, I should have yelled out like, I don't hate guys, I'm part guy myself, you know? But I didn't think of that, right? I'm just lying there. We all know people talk behind our backs, right? It happens. But to actually hear it, it was like a punch in the gut, you know? It was really intense. And I kind of wanted to wake up Melissa, but I'm like, no, she's got to sleep. So I'm lying there. And you know, even at the time, I'm a good spiritual student. I knew, even in that moment, you know, there I had been, consciousness is creative, and there I had been at this event, worried about what the other women would think of me, and here I had attracted an experience of finding out exactly what one person thought of me, right? Yeah. Now I also know, and I knew then, that knowledge that consciousness is creative requires that we be very gentle with ourselves, because sometimes we find things happening that are a little less than comfortable. And I find that the best thing is to just be curious, right? To just say, huh. Because I know I've had, and I'm sure you have, things that appear to be the worst thing that could ever have happened to us, that then becomes the best thing that could ever have happened to us, right? And the longer we know this philosophy and the longer we work it, the more and more we find that's true. So I tried to stay in that place. Did I mention this was a spiritual retreat? So the next morning I am scanning the room trying to figure out who it is, because I remembered that voice. And it was interesting because 2 of the women in that room had that voice, which was hard because then I didn't know which one to hate. That was hard. Yeah. But after not too long, I found out who it was, because they were staying in the room right next to us. At some point we took a break, something happened, and there they were. And so I was able to say, hey, just so you know, the walls between our rooms are really thin so we can hear everything you're saying. It didn't bring me quite the satisfaction I thought it would to let her know that I knew what she said. Also, now that I could see her, I knew some things about her. I could see that she was a few decades older than I was. And so back when she was coming up, there weren't as many gender-rich people roaming free in the land, you know? She didn't have that, you know? She also grew up in a conservative religious household, I found out. Again, not a lot of this, you know? I also kept thinking about what she said that night, that first night, because it was pretty much etched in my brain. Everything she said started with, I don't understand. I don't understand why she has to look like a man. I don't understand why. She was saying, I don't get it. I don't understand. That's really what she was saying. Yeah, maybe there was some judgment there, but ultimately what she was saying is, I don't get it. So because this was, after all, a spiritual retreat, at one point we did an exercise where we went within, and because I'm a meditator, I love to meditate. In this moment, I was able to get there. I was able to go within to that place of unity, of love, of connection, and just bask in it for a while. And when I was in that place, I thought about my little next door neighbor, and I thought, you know, to the degree that she's judging me, it doesn't feel good, right? When we're judging people, even if we feel justified, it doesn't actually feel good. And there's a reason why we all want to be in love, because that feels good. That's what feels good. It doesn't feel good to be out of alignment with love. It just doesn't feel good, even if we feel justified about it. And so I was thinking about her and her reaction to me, and I was thinking, she wants to love me. Like, whether she knows it or not, she wants to love me. And it became like this mantra. I just said again and again, she wants to love me. She wants to love me. And in that moment, I was able to totally forgive her. It wasn't even anything I ever had to interact with her about, just in my own heart. I was able to totally forgive her, and not in a, you know, I'm better than you, I forgive you kind of way. Like, just really genuinely, she wants to love me. And not only that, I want to love her, because I had gotten my little knickers, my little gender-rich knickers, all in a twist about her judgment. I was being judgy about her being judgy, which made me double judgy, which is not really very good. And so she wants to love me. I that, I want to love me. Because yes, I did attract this situation to me with where I was, with my consciousness, because I still had unhealed stuff to look at. And it was an amazing way to look at that, and perfect to be at a spiritual retreat, doing spiritual practice, because that's when this stuff comes up, right? That's the perfection. It's no accident that I got there by doing spiritual practice, because as Melissa said, that's how we uncover this stuff, right? Through prayer, through meditation, through talking with a counselor. That's where this stuff gets uncovered. And it's the truth, because by doing spiritual practice, we touch in with that truth, and that is the truth. She wants to love me, I want to love her. And the beauty, it's kind of a flip side thing too, because the more then we act in a loving way toward others, the more we can touch base with that fundamental truth, that love that is in and through all of us. There's this story I love about a guy who goes to the doctor and he says, "Doctor, I hurt all over. Oh my God, I am in so much pain." And the doctor says, "Well, okay, you're gonna need to be a little more specific. Can you help me out here?" And he says, "Oh, okay, well, right there, my knee. Oh, right there. And right, oh, my elbow. Ooh, right there. And then my nose. Oh, it hurts so much." Doctor says, "I think I know what's going on." Examines him and then says, "You have a broken finger." When we look at life with a fractured lens, everything hurts. Everything hurts. But when we ground ourselves in spiritual practice and we look through the eyes of love, we see the truth. We uncover the lie and look on the flip side. We see the truth that they want to love you and you want to love them. That is the truth. Grounding in our spiritual practice, indeed, we know that love is the only truth. And the only truth is love. And so it is.
I'm so in love. Would you like to repeat after me? Yes. That's where you say, yes! Would you